Hello, my name is Dante Renee, and welcome to the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page, where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more. Tonight's film is 1976's Feelin Up. This is 1976's Feelin Up. Now, this is actually a DVD-R copy, a bootleg copy that I got off of ioffer.com. As far as I know, this has only been released on VHS, and it looks like Lloyd Kaufman and Michael Hertz presented this, so that Troma actually distributed this title, and this is Feelin Up. This is the actual cover of the movie, and you can see a screenshot in the back. I think this is actually taken from the VHS, obviously. And this is from 1976. And there is a tagline on the back here that says, "Remember what you felt when you were 16. Feelin Up." Let's get into this film a little bit right here. First and foremost, whoa. Was this cover misleading? Was the title misleading? I mean, was the tagline misleading? You look at this cover and you say, this looks like an amazing 80s teen sex comedy. You look at the title. 80s teen sex comedy gold, right? Remember what you felt when you were 16. This just seems like it's going to be great. The two on the front look awesome, right? She's got great boots on. All right, so this looks like it's going to be some... Talk about a sucker punch. This actual movie, which I believe also had an alternate title of Getting Together, which is definitely more apropos. This cover, this title, this tagline couldn't be more of a lie about this film. The actual film has nothing to do with the cover, the title. These aren't people in the film. Not even it almost looks 80s maybe, or late 70s. But this film completely sucker punched me, because I was expecting a teen sex comedy, and what I got instead was a film that erupted out of a 70s underground hippie commune based in free love, entrepreneurship, and adult movies. And free love. And really about free love in the hippie commune 70s culture. Okay, let's get into this film, because this is something really, it completely dumbfounded me, because I was not expecting this at all. And this is Feelin Up. I made some notes once again, so let's get into this. Essentially, we have a film about a guy who is with a girl, his girlfriend, living in a place, and he basically has a change of heart. He changes his mind about the way that he wants to live. He doesn't want to live for the man any longer. Put that into late 70s context. The man does not want to work for the man or live for the man any longer. So he's going to make a radical life change, and he's going to turn his home into a wild and weird hippie, amazing looking, by the way, creative abode. Okay? And he wants to essentially keep making money. This was a very interesting theme in the film. He wants to keep making money to satisfy the way that they live, their means of living still. But he wants to make money without selling out to the man. And so it's not about, I hate money, I don't care about money. He wants to make the money and still live according to the same way they were living before, but without making money by selling out. So let's get into this film. This is quite a complex film, especially in light of your expectations from this very misleading cover and title of the film. Now, I believe that possibly Troma, when picking it up for distribution, was in charge of the actual cover and possible retitling of the film. I'm not exactly sure. If you know that, you can post it in the comments. But Troma maybe had something to do with distributing this film, because to distribute this film as it is would be very difficult, especially in the Troma community, but also just in general. This is a really interesting film. So let's start off, like I like to, with the music. And the music in this film
definitely late 70s. We got some awesome disco vibes in this film. We got some awesome funky disco vibes in this film. We have 70s electronic, groovy, moody, funky music. And we even have a song sung by children. Oh, live in the film. Yes, children singing live in a band that looks like the modern Jack Black School of Rock movie. Yes, it's in here, and they're singing what I believe was the previous title for the film, or the original title for the film, Getting Together, I believe. So let's look at this a little bit. Now, the style of this film is actually quite interesting. It's quite complex, and you'll notice if in the first 15 minutes, first 10 minutes, maybe even the first, as soon as you pop it in, the first couple of minutes, you're going to notice there's some crazy stylistic things going on here. Notably, we have mixing of time frames from past to present. And the narrative takes the form of this complex mix of the past and the present, loosely, interchangeably, sometimes with narration or a present conversation, not really narration, but a present conversation, and you're seeing things that are happening in the past, but it's done in a very jarring manner, and it's done consistently, and at a few, it keeps going. And so it's this mixing of time frames stylistically in the edit that is really, really interesting. We also have, obviously, a lot of energy in this film, and a lot of psychedelic energy in this film. This is definitely a product of the late 70s, so we definitely have some psychedelic and almost horrific sequences in this film. Dark, horrific sequences in the film, a few, but a psychedelic vibe all about, obviously, all around. If you have a hippie commune film, of course you're going to be dealing with this. And we have high energy in this film, especially, the first 15-20 minutes, very high energy in the edits, mixing time frames, high energy all throughout, in particular the camera and the edit. We have really sped up montages in this film, which also adds to the energy of the movie. There are sped up montages. Whenever characters are telling about something that happened, as I told you before, you're going to see the edit of that narration. There's lapses, there's pacing, mixing within the storyline. It's really complex, I guess mostly editing, but really a complex kind of casserole here, a cinema casserole, a cinema stew of the way that the movie is put together is really, really interesting, and predominantly it's in that first 15-20 minutes of the film. This really feels like a weird 70s hippie film, with dark edges and dark emotions, serious dramatic emotions, screaming at times, crying at times. It's almost cacophonous, it's almost grating, it's almost oppressive, some of the screaming sequences in here, and then also some humor amidst that. But would you call this a comedy? You might see that on IMDb for this film. You might see it in, especially even in the, in the way that the film is marketed. Would you call this film a comedy? I would definitely not call this film a comedy at all. I would call this film a very weird, hippie, dramatic, kind of exploitation film. It's exploitation film even. Okay, let's look at some more of this. In this film, I wrote a couple things down here. In this film, we have a weird strip bar section, a weird strip bar in general. Deep red lighting, weird characters you don't even know who they are, and then they come back, then they come into the main narration, and you're not quite sure who they are, where they came from. We got drugs. We have very interesting racial things in this film that was definitely before Spike Lee, folks. We have very interesting homosexual things in this film that was definitely ahead of its time, definitely ahead of 2016. I mean, obviously, but really, really edgy racial and homosexual stuff in this film, and themes in this film. We have porno movie making in this film, being seen as an underground art, being seen as something hippie worthy, and something against the man, and just an ethical way of making a living. We have sexual therapy in this film. Very interesting sequences of actual, therapy and you're paying for a counselor sexually, and how that ties into this film. We have benefits of free love amongst a commune, amongst marriage and children in the free love hippie commune. Okay, this is a really, really wild film that is definitely a product of 1976, but I would see it as a film that would be very difficult to market because it's not as exploitative as other films of this ilk. It almost has a vibe about it that is almost teaching you the ways and the benefits of living in a free manner sexually, and of having children in that way with multiple partners. It's almost in a way showing you and telling you, and there's some very weird sequences. I mean, it all takes place in this newly renovated apartment from this guy who, you know, changed everything, and the apartment itself is so weird because it has like this lagoon in the apartment, and it's a really cool looking place. I mean, you would definitely want this kind of place, but it's the physicality of the apartment, and it's the ins and outs of the apartment, and it's the characters in the apartment complex as a whole that really add a dimension to this film that is quite complex and quite freaking weird. We have some. This is, you know, like I said, what are we mixing here? What are we doing here? I mean, we have drama, we have sexploitation, we have some humor. We have exploitation, some darkness. We have psychedelic. You know, this is a really, it's a portrayal. It's in some ways, and seemingly done very seriously also, and with the weighty themes in this film and the way that it's really ahead of its time. I mean, you know, this could be a film that would have been very jarring possibly for people back then, and extremely edgy, especially with the themes of race and homosexuality and sexuality in general and child rearing in general. This is Feelin Up. I mean, you know, not the right title for this. If Troma did that, that's not necessarily the right title for this particular film. This is a really, really unique film that really kind of messes with your emotions. You're not quite sure the intentions and what you're watching and what's going on exactly, and what it's supposed to be. In terms of the eroticism, we do have female nudity and male nudity. But it's very sparse. It's you know, it's not much at all. Very, very little, actually. But it's the sexuality of the film, that the sexual themes thematically of the film and what is happening and what is going on, in particular this very wild, energetic cop scene with a bunch of underage people seemingly, and a sex tape. You know, there's some wild, wild stuff in this film. This is Feelin Up, 1976. Thank you so much for watching. And please feel free to check out all my other reviews in this YouTube page: exploitation, sexploitation, erotica, horror, weird, adult, bizarre, surreal, underground. It's all here. Stuff that I want to talk about. These are movies that I feel need to be talked about more. And please feel free to check out my own personal films at youtube.com/poopydiarrhea. Thank you, and good night.